This week on fxguidetv.
We explore 2 films from this year's Computer Animation Festival at Siggraph. The winner of Best of Show, directed by 5 French film students, à la Francaise. And we also talked to Oscar winner Chris Landreth about his latest short film, Subconscious Password.
This and more coming up next.
Hello, I'm Angie Dale and we have a special episode for you this week from Siggraph in California. Jeff, John and Mike are in Anaheim not only for the main Siggraph event, but also for DigiPro, the special VFX animation mini-conference that happens the day before.
Well, congratulations on the success of the film. Tell me, whose idea was the initial story for this rather interesting animated film?
I think it was me. Yeah. So, the original concept was to have just chicken in Versailles, and after that, so we made a group together, and we find a different story, different things to different character, and that's it. I mean,
because 17th century Versailles and chickens isn't an immediately obvious thing for me. I thought it was great.
It comes from Julian.
Yeah, because in fact we watch a lot of documentary, a lot of things about history, and at this time there was a very famous thing. It was like rooster fight, and so it starts to this point, to the rooster fight, and after that we decide to just put off the character, the human character, and just take the chicken and play with that, make something funny and fresh.
It did seem like a very detailed world, like with just a lot of props, but a lot of just time and love on the environments.
We did a lot of research in history of art or documentary. It helps a lot to find what was the best for our stories, and I think we all of the people in the group love this area, this epoch.
The chateaux of France are gorgeous, but I mean, did you actually go to Versailles?
Yes, because my parents live in Paris, it was easy for me to go to Versailles and photograph everything. And yeah.
In fact, at the end of the project, it was like we watched a lot of different things of Versailles, of the garden, of the inside of the palace, and
a lot of books.
Yeah, and at the end of the production, it was like I know Versailles by
everything.
heart. It's like and that's it was very interesting, a very interesting project to made a lot of search about French history, because we want to make something a movie very French, and a lot of things was happening in the movie are based on the real story and a real character. And
like Jean La Fontaine.
Yeah, Jean de La Fontaine. It's a poet. Yeah, and he made a lot of story about animals, and in fact it's
and because we wanted to talk about French people, we used chickens because chickens is the symbol of France.
Yes.
And so the rooster, blah blah blah. So we wanted really to talk about France and French and the mentality and how it was going in the courts of the king and stuff. So we thought that Versailles, because it's Louis XIV, and I think everybody knows about Louis XIV, is really a powerful king and a bit really famous, really famous. And so
tell me a little bit about the process of how it came together.
So basically, we were 3 character designers on the chickens, and we all have different style, and so we decided to, at some point we were working on each side on different type of character design, and we thought that it would be the best to put everything together. So basically Emmanuelle Lele, she designed it, the faces, and then I made research about the bodies, the volume of bodies and stuff, and then with all these researches, Rencien, he made the final design for the
modeling.
model
I compiled
sheets.
this research and then I did final design. And then I did all this model sheets.
So what was it modelled in?
We use 3ds Max, and for the character it's only 3ds Max, and for the statues it's the brush.
For UVs we used Unfold, and so yeah, that's it. We render on V-Ray and made the compositing on After Effects and the editing on Premiere. So in fact we really use the Adobe's, yeah.
Adobe Suite and basics.
It's not really technical.
Talk to me about the V-Ray rendering though. Was the approach there to render out final shots where basically everything is in the frame, or were you trying to render out lots of different passes and then put it together in After Effects?
We use a lot of static shots.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact all the shots in the movie are static, so I just render one time the background, and after that I made some, I reworked the background on Photoshop to add some details, and for example inside the palace to work on the gold to make a very special tint of gold. And after that I render with the V-Ray sphere. I put the V-Ray sphere around the character, and I just render the character.
So like an IBL solution?
Yeah, and with that I just render just the character and just the environment very close to the character, and I composite that on After Effects. And because the render time was pretty long about on the background, because there was like a lot of detail, and so it was a good solution because render that and render also all the character. There is like some shot, or there is 40 different characters in the scene. So the scene was very big. We found a way to make different scene for the people in the foreground and for the people in the background, because if we put together all the chicken, it was like just 3ds Max crashed. So it was pretty interesting to see how our pipeline just moved to find good solution about render time, about to make the scene opening very easily, and Rencien, the rig of Rencien, it was.
I was going to ask about the rigging, whether or not there was one generic rig, or everything was rigged individually. And
in fact, I did a auto rig, so I just used my script to generate all these rigs.
And so, was there any need for any actual simulation work with any of either the cloths
Clothing,
or?
yes.
We worked together on the clothes.
Yes.
Was the tailoring easy to get the simulations the way you wanted? Because a lot of tailoring work, if you go to a tutorial, it's all on a biped, and you weren't exactly modelling clothes for a traditional character.
It depends on the shot and the animation, but some shot because of the animation was easy with no large movement and very speed movement. It was easy because there were no high movement. So, but for the other animation, it was very long to calculate it, and we did a lot of research on the clothes to find the best way, and it was very heavy, but it works at the end.
So tell me how you come to be here in Anaheim at Siggraph. How did the film get into the festival? How did you hear about how it had gone?
We just got an email one day, I think, who say, hey, you won the best in show, and
Yeah.
it's like,
I remember we were so surprised. Is it true?
yeah, because it was before the Siggraph, and was like, all right, maybe it's a joke, so
Yeah.
we will wait and see. And in fact,
It was my Taiwanese friend told me.
Yeah.
So I posted in the Facebook, and nobody believed this.
I was like, what the no, it's
So is this the first time for anyone in the States?
It's the first time for me.
First time.
Okay. And so when did you guys arrive? Like
Yesterday for me.
yesterday? And you
2 days ago.
had a good reaction? Have you spoken to many people yet have seen the film?
Not yet.
So you've got all of that in front of you. Well, this is definitely the place to be. If where are you guys wanting to go with your careers? What's the next step?
I just want to learn more. Like, I think we all need to learn more and more. So we are just junior. We just finished school. So I guess we need more experience and go further. And we're gonna see, because I think we didn't do this movie to win any award or something. So we really wanted to do the best student movie, I guess.
Yeah.
And so like everything which happened after that, like all this year we won several festivals, and it's always like big surprise, and it's really not expected. So like,
Well, you realise that the conference is actually a precursor, sets up for the Oscars. So you guys could actually literally from here to the Oscars, right?
Yes.
yeah, we knew that.
I learned it from a guy from work.
So in fact, all you got to do now is beat Pixar, right, for best short animated film.
I think it's gonna stop
Why
there.
not?
Well, thanks so much for being with us, and congratulations, and enjoy the time here in Siggraph.
Thank you very much.
Charles, it's you! It's Charles! My goodness, my eyeballs are gonna pop out of my head!
What's his name? I'm fine. I forget names, but I remember them again later.
Live from Charles Langford's Inner Brain, it's Subconscious Password, the game show of lost memories and vague impressions.
I was wondering if we could just start, I guess, sort of get right into it. I was wondering, given the nature of the design of many of your characters is to reflect an emotional state, and obviously you're not going for some kind of photorealistic representation, the yardstick upon which you judge your characters by is really up to your interpretation of their emotional state. How quickly do you derive that focused look that you're going for?
Well, I mean, in the film that I just did, it's showing here Subconscious Password, there's huge wide range of realism. Another films that I've done, there's a certain, I emphasize or try to do photorealism, sometimes a very weird treatment of that photorealism, like getting details of skin and hair to be photorealistic. In this film, there's a wide range of that. Because the subject nature of the film is that it goes into the mind of a person and goes into this person's subconscious state. I think in all of our subconscious minds, the way that we negotiate the world, we negotiate through our subconscious. It's like, what do we say? How do we remember things? This happens underneath our conscious, what we see in our waking life. And in that subconscious, I think there's very different things that go on that describe that and how we describe the world. When we just remember somebody who we've just seen for like a minute ago, that person's going to be in your mind's eye, like with the appearance of like if I, like the Pat over there. I know what she looks like, and there she is in my mind's eye. That's realistic, right? But if you're just barely remembering somebody from a long time ago, or you have just the vaguest idea of what a person is or who a person is, like a TV celebrity or a literary figure who you might or might not have seen, it's less realistic. So in the film Subconscious Password, you've got this mishmash of characters who are kind of photoreal and other characters who are really cheaply not photoreal at all.
You chose to do this film in 3D. I was wondering, what did that present to you in terms of opportunities?
I mean, both opportunities and challenges for doing stereo 3D in this film, for sure. I generally tend to be very resistant to doing stereo 3D. If you don't use it with some reason to support the story, then it becomes a gimmick. And I really wanted it to support the story here. And so in the film, the stereo 3D element comes in actually kind of gradually. And only over the course of a few minutes of the story does the 3D depth, the literal depth, the 3D environment really envelop the audience. And that only happens really towards the end. So I kind of gradually bring it in to the imagery of the film. And I think that works really well to make the film, to make the depth of it really support what's going on in the story.
Ever since I first saw you, I think Bingo was for me one of the first films I ever saw of yours, there seems to be such a strong soundscape. And I was just wondering, how much does the sound precede the vision in your directorial process? Or is it that you're scoring and putting a lot of the audio in after you've done the design and character work?
I mean, we did the film pretty much with a pipeline you would imagine. That is, we had the voices recorded first, and then we are animating on top of the voices. And then once we have the animation in place, then I have way more of an idea of literally how the soundscape is going to work. Like, for example, there's a monster in the film, Cthulhu, who comes in and he's about 25, 30 feet tall, and he's so huge and so terrifying that he actually is able to devour one of the characters in the film. What does that sound like? I don't really know what that sounds like. I mean, that's you think of Gary Rydstrom and other masters of sound trying to figure out what a Tyrannosaurus Rex sounds like. We don't know. So you just figure stuff out. This is where it gets fun. I mean, for me, the fun part is when we do Foley. And I was really fortunate to have Andy Malcolm and Footstep Studios in Ontario work with me on the Foley part of this. And here we are, like splashing water around and taking these pieces of leather and whipping them against walls, and then stomping up and down on pieces of sponge, and then pitch shifting that sponge part down to become subwoofing bass, and then layering all these things together and flanging them and separating them, and then it becomes Cthulhu. I mean, that's where I'm really a little boy, is when I'm doing and hearing that stuff.
So this film has an interesting, I'm going to call it live action section at the beginning, though that doesn't do it justice. How did you actually film that opening section where the two characters meet?
I mean, the opening section where it's myself and John Dilworth, who friend of mine and fellow animator, was done with a technique called Pixelation, which is something a hybrid between live action and stop motion. With stop motion, like puppet animation, think of Coraline, for example, is that there are puppets on the set, and the animator will pose the puppet from one shot to the next, and then when you play it back, it looks like that, right? But with Pixelation, imagine doing puppet stop motion, but using human beings instead. So that's what me and John were doing. We were basically posing, instead of acting out live action in front of a moving camera, you are posing in front of a still camera, and then you click the shutter, change your pose slightly, click the shutter, and do that over and over again, and then when you play it back, it looks like this. So that's what we were doing. It's with Pixelation, it takes a long time to do. We were there for 18 hours to do something like 70 seconds of footage. I mean, we were doing this on a soundstage in Toronto in which we had a stereo camera rig. So this is actually one of the first, if not the first, instances of stereoscopic pixelation, the live stop motion animation that we were doing. But it is, it's kind of live and it's kind of animation at the same time.
Was that at all comped, or was all that stuff going on in the background captured in camera?
All of that was comped. We were acting in front of a green screen. The comping stuff that was done, this is where a lot of collaboration really comes in to play. And I was working with one of the great young, you'll be hearing a lot about it, I'm sure. His name is David Barlow Curlina. He's one of the people who comes out of a program at the NFB called the Hot House program. So Hot House is where sort of imagine the germinating tank for where these young animators emerge from. And David came out of that last year, a couple of years ago, and we were lucky enough to have him stay on at the NFB so that he could work on my film. And he basically invented this entire world behind me and John, and populated it with these weird stop motion pixelated characters, but also with these time-lapse moving characters who go either streaking by or causing like a 15-frame motion blur trail behind them. We wanted to give a disorienting environment, but one that was nonetheless very, realistic.
Just on a technical side, when you get into the animation section, what are your tools of choice these days?
I have been working with, for 3D animation. I did work on this film and as I have been on many of my other films with Maya, Autodesk Maya. We're using a lot of things for effects. We were using cloth, basically, end cloth from Maya for doing cloth, but not just that, but other visual effects that are happening for, shattering glass, etc., happening with that. We worked with Flow 3D for there's a lot of goopy stuff happening in the, towards the end of the film when this person is drowning in his own subconscious, where the camera is slowly going through a constellation of brain cells. This was done using Sandy. This is a tool that the NFB has been using in its production studios for about 10 years now. Sandy allows an artist to draw in 3D space, be able to see a 3D projection of that right behind where that person is drawing, and be able to animate key points on that in order to create animation. Actually not just animate it to 3D, but actually animate it in 3D with your hands in space. And the person who did this, a guy named Monroe Ferguson, created something like, I think it was 15,000 of those neurons that you see in the galaxy. We call it the Deck Galaxy of Neurons shot. Yeah, it's one of the great, it's effects without intending to be photorealistic. There's this stylization to that for me, I really see having been created actually in a 3D environment by a 3D artist in 3D space.
How long is the process for you to produce a short film? How much of a commitment is this to you?
Yeah. Subconscious Password took 2 years.
And of that, how long did it take to write?
Yeah, the writing part and the figuring out what the film would be was the first year. And then we worked with Seneca College. Once the National Film Board and I were agreed on a production for this, sort of a production schedule. As with my previous 2 films, I worked with the Animation Arts School, Animation Arts Center at Seneca College. We started production together in January of 2012. We ramped up doing pre-production, layout, modeling, asset stuff over a 5-month period up until April. In April, we started what at Seneca College is called the Summer Institute. We were just talking about that. Summer Institute brings on animators, visual effects artists, lighters, compositors, come on board and work for a period of, in the case of the animators, 4 months. It's like a summer term with the school, but it's a professional animation gig as far as this film is concerned. So we were working through the summer and the fall doing animation, visual effects, and working towards lighting. And then in the fall, September, October, November, we did rendering, compositing, November, December, post all happening in January and a little bit of February, and we wrapped right on time in order for the deadline which we had, which was for the Annecy Animation Festival. We finished right on the day, sent the film out to them. It was accepted, made the deadline by 1 day, and ultimately won the grand prize at Annecy. So
congratulations for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm interested, was the stereo part of that in the design from the outset, or was that something that came in over the course of that 2-year period?
It was pretty much in the outset that we knew that we were going to be doing this, and so we were thinking about how that might work, how that would be, and that notion of bringing in the depth, literally bringing in the depth over the course of that film was something that we were figuring out very early that we wanted to do.
So what I'm going to ask next, right? On your next film, would you be wanting to explore further in 3D, or did you not find it fulfilling?
I want to go into 4D. Okay. No, not 5D. I want to be able to bring smell into my next film. Scratch and sniff, like John Waters films. That would be great. I don't know yet what I generally tend to be.
Did you find it creatively valid and fulfilling, and you thought it really worked, or did you find it like a hindrance to the process?
I was afraid it would be a hindrance to the process, but I mean, once you start thinking in terms of the cinematography of 3D, it's not a hindrance anymore. You start to understand what it does and what you can do for it. I mean, we weren't looking to challenge the 3D in the sense of like cutting between, big close-up here and then suddenly cutting to some sprawling thing out here. The film doesn't lend itself to that because it is an intimate film with characters framed pretty close up. And because of that, because I like doing that, I would like to be able to use the 3D to bring the audience, to bring the characters into the audience space without invading that space. And as long as they are doing what we generally tend to do in real life, which is to sit and talk and to hang out, those characters, that's what they're doing. They're not like lunging or rolling over on the floor or anything. They're sitting. If you have a story where that's what's happening and that's what you want to have happen, 3D can be great because because you are bringing characters right into the audience space without invading that audience space.
Kennedy.
Bobby!
No, not Bobby. For 6 points with your babysitter from when you were 4.
You have got to be kidding. Hello, Mom.
Goat! Lennon.
Bed sheets.
Light up, child.
Next password.
I am very disappointed. No, sorry.
Wow!
Thanks, guys. And don't forget, there's a new term over at fxphd.com with a stack of hardcore production courses in Nuke, Houdini, Cinema 4D Maya, RealFlow, plus those very cool new previs and character animation courses. Well, until next time, follow us on Twitter at fxguidenews. See ya. For more industry news, in-depth features, podcasts and forums, check out fxguide.com. And for visual effects training, check out fxphd.com.